Minister. The time for answering the question has expired. Senator Canavan.
My question is for the Minister for Finance and Minister representing the Treasurer, Senator Cormann. Is the Minister aware of any promises to return the budget to surplus more quickly than the government itself is planning? Can the Minister advise the Senate of whether or not such promises are credible?
The Minister for Finance representing the Treasurer, Senator Cormann.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and I thank Senator Canavan for that question. And yes, I am aware. The other day I was sitting quietly in my office working on ideas on how to continue the effort to repair the budget mess we've inherited from our predecessors. And who would turn up on television? None other than opposition leader Mr. Bill Shorten. And what was Mr. Bill Shorten promising to the Australian people? That not only would the Labor Party get the budget back to surplus, they would actually get the budget back to surplus sooner than the coalition. Sooner than the coalition. Now, this is Mr. Shorten, who was a senior minister in the government that created the mess in the first place. This is Mr. Shorten, who is opposing most of our sensible savings measures. This is Mr. Shorten, who cannot even convince the Labor caucus to support the savings measures they themselves initiated and banked in the budget. I mean, this is Mr. Shorten who is telling us that big businesses generating more than $20 billion a year in revenue should continue to have tax cuts for their investment in research and development. Now, the Labor Party, under Prime Minister Gillard and Prime Minister Rudd, said that is not appropriate. We should not give a tax cut to businesses generating more than $20 billion in revenue a year. Not Mr. Shorten. Mr. Shorten says that's too hard. We know that Senator Kim Carr, the senator for Pyongyang, he rolled Mr. Shorten in the Labor caucus.
Senator Cormann, that's unparliamentary, so I'd ask you to withdraw that reflection on Senator Carr.
I withdraw.
Thank you,
Senator Kim Carr, the Labor senator for Victoria. We do know that he went into the Labor caucus and he rolled Mr. Shorten on this particular Labor Party saving. We know that he's been proud to claim that in the past. We know that he's been sitting here in the chamber chuckling when we've made these assertions because he knows it's true. So here we've got a Labor leader who created the mess, who was part of the people that created the mess in the first place, who's not doing anything to help us fix the mess, and here he's claiming he's going to bring the budget back to surplus.
Thank you, Minister.
Sooner.
The time for answering the question has expired. Senator Canavan, a supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. President. I do have a supplementary. Will the Minister advise the Senate of what budget savings are currently being held up in the Senate?
Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Well, what I can advise Senator Canavan and the Senate is that nearly $6 billion in budget savings are blocked right now by the Labor Party, savings that Labor themselves initiated and banked in their last budget. They never had what it took. They never had what it took to legislate their own savings measures through the Parliament. And here they're now telling us that not only are they going to bring the budget back to surplus, they're going to bring the budget back to surplus sooner than the coalition, without any detail whatsoever on where Mr. Shorten is going to cut deeper, where he's going to increase taxes. Because guess what? Given Mr. Shorten's track record so far, he's actually starting from way behind. And eventually it will dawn on Mr. Shorten that if he wants to make these sorts of promises, the budget is not actually a magic pudding. The budget is not a magic pudding. If you don't want to support our savings, if you don't want to support our revenue measures, if you want to deliver a budget more quickly,
the time for answering the question has expired. Senator Canavan, a final supplementary question.
Thank you, Mr. President. Will the Minister inform the Senate why it remains so important to repair the budget?
Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. A budget repair is critically important if we are to protect our living standards, if we are to build opportunity and prosperity for the future, if we want to ensure that we don't reduce opportunities for our children and grandchildren. Because the situation the Labor Party left behind, having inherited a strong budget position, a strong surplus, money in the bank, net interest payments on the back of a positive net asset position, that put us into a situation where every year now we've got to put our hands into the pockets of our children and grandchildren, forcing them to pay for our lifestyle today, forcing them to pay for a proportion of our recurrent expenditure year on year. Now, that is unfair, that is fundamentally unfair, because what it means is that down the track our children and grandchildren would have to accept either lower services from government or higher taxes from government in order to pay for the budget mess, the debt and deficit disaster the Labor Party has left behind. On this side, we're working very hard to sort this out in order to improve opportunity for children and grandchildren.
Thank you, Minister. The time for answering the question has expired. Senator Abetz.